now watching The Journey, the mass band story. The Cropover Festival was first launched on June 1st, 1970, but was not officially identified as a festival until 4 years later. In 1974, the festival was brought back to life and reconceptualized as a national festival by the Barbados Tourism Board and local stakeholders in an effort to attract more visitors to the island and garner interest in local folk culture. Cropover now begins in June and stretches until the first Monday in August for the finale of the season, the Grand Kadooment.
Kadooment Day for me means freedom. It means being able to express myself however I feel like, being able to dance, enjoy myself with my friends, meet new people, show off the body that I've been working ever so hard for.
From a child, I always loved Cropover. I was always just so intrigued and fascinated by everything that the festival presented us with. And because Kadooment Day was a climax, like I always wanted to be involved in that. It looked like so much fun, the revelry, putting on the costumes. I always have put it on a costume. I'm a dancer, so like that came up with me from the time I was 3 years old. So Kadooment Day for me is something that's very close to my heart. It really shows our culture, it shows our people, how happy we can be, how accepting we can be as well, because people travel from all over to jump in Kadooment, and it's just not only the culmination of Cropover, but just a showcase of the joy that Barbadians really carry with them, like every day, and we're able to show it off on that day.
Like my son turned 23 last week, and it's only when he turned 23 I realized how young we were. I'm watching this little kid, like, and I'm like, that's how old we were when we were doing this thing.
3, 2, 1, you're done now. We counted down to 2008. Cropover is gonna be bigger and better than ever.
It's been a part of my life, literally since I was a kid. And Kadooment Day, I would say Cropover itself means the world to me, because it's given me, my family, my country, an identity, and something to be proud of. Something that we can really say, like, you know, we are proud of this music, this festival, the creativity. It is global. It's globally competitive.
When you should be disappear magically. I know it's a studio beat. It's me and Daddy beat. Watch it now. Ladies set up like power pop. Girl bubble.
That's why I've started to take it as a day off, you know what I mean, to really go back to enjoying it. And even though I still get caught with the work aspect from time to time involved, but just down to seeing people and everyone in beautiful colors collectively together in all the bands, you know what I mean? All the bands bring such flavor and such an ambience and environment, and roaming through the streets of Barbados, through the midst of the chattel houses and the environment, the outside culture as well, the vendors and everything. And it's just a rhythmic energy all across the board, you know, and it's just love. It's amazing.
Is the absolute and complete form of expression mixed with hot sun and alcohol if you drink, and the best Bajan vibe that you can possibly have. It is the complete embodiment of Barbadian culture while allowing you to express yourself as freely as you possibly can without judgment.
Back it up on the come, and let me get by your sugar lump. Jam it up on the front, and let me get by your sugar lump. Turn that thing around.
Actually, there was a carnival in Barbados before Cropover. A lot of people don't know that. There was actually a carnival that was started, I think, by the GSEs. My aunt had told me about it because she used to jump there. And these were a group of people from Trinidad who missed carnival, and they started a carnival in Barbados. And actually, Marva Manning, she was queen of the carnival 1 year. But I think it wasn't too well received by certain people, and they had some incident in the wharf, I think, and they had stopped it. But then when Cropover started, I remember I was a youngster. I had some guys from I would say a village, because my area was Lanza and it was like a little village. And the guys were going to jump, and I asked if I could go on. Most of them had grass skirts. So I went and revel, and we ended up on the Garrison that year. And they had Burning Harding, and we threw, things that Harding, all kind of stuff. And it was nice, and I really enjoyed it. But back then, as I said, the costumes would depict themes, and there were different types of materials and stuff like that. And I made the stalwarts like Betty and Gwyneth, they used to bring the bands in a big band, it would be like 300 people and that kind of stuff.
I've participated in Crop Over from the very first Crop Over back in the 70s. So if I'm to start with the whole history of bands, starting with Banks Bury's band, Phases of Crop Time, which I not only participated in as a masquerader, but also designed the costumes. And won that first year. If you go back in the archives, you would find that we, Banks Bury's, with my design, won that band for Phases of Crop Time. So that band looked at the different phases and crops, like you had the sugar cane, the green section, you had the burnt canes, you had the black, you had the firemen, you had fire in the section, and then we had the different types of sugar, white sugar, brown sugar, and all those. So that was the very first Crop Over, and we won.
We started out with what you call a swimsuit as a base, because most of the bands like Betty and Gwyneth and the older bands would have made masks with cardboard stoppers, whatever, But we decided, because it was young people and they're moving a lot, we needed a swimsuit base. So then hence we started what you call the swimsuit bands here. But we hold a lot of heat back then for it, because the bands were skimpy and didn't necessarily depict exactly what the section was.
When Beige started in 96, the band started in 99, but the actual group started in 96. I was still at university, coming back and forth from Miami home, and we were just throwing parties during the summer when I came home, just to while out and have fun. And to be real, I was not into soca at all. I was into bashment and hip hop. And our parties reflected where we were at that time. In 1998, when I came back home to live, I played mass with a band, with a group called Mothers. They had a section the year before in Paul by 4, and I had a time. So I went to Mothers with a different band. I won't mention the band. And we were on the road jamming and thing, and everything went wrong with this band. The truck broke down, the music truck broke down, the drinks ran out, everything. And I was with one of my very good friends, Lisa Chandler, and her aunt, Marcia Chandler. And she was on the road with us, and Marcia said, you know what? I want to get back in the Crop Over, right? Because she's a designer, a veteran designer, and she'd be out of the business for years. And she's like, but I don't want to deal with the business and the fets and all that. So why don't you guys handle the business of it? I want to come back in as a designer. And we were like, all right, cool, So we jumped in, and initially the parties were just who we were, man. So the first year, which was 99, with our first band, we did like 10 fets, right, at the museum, and I think at another little spot. I can't recall the name now. But the fets were definitely our style. So you would go to this fet and you would have, dancehall, you would have just soca for sure, your soca artists and soca, but you would have dancehall, you would have your bashment, you would have your hip hop and so on. And a lot of the purists were very upset with that, because, a soca fet was a soca fet kind of thing. And we were like, Marcia hired us to basically come and do the business of it and do the entertainment, and that's how we do it. So from the very get-go, it was very controversial. We got into business in 99 for our first band. Marcia kind of babysat us through it, because she did all the designs, and we kind of learnt peeping over her shoulder. But we did the mass camp. In those days, we legit used to actually make the costumes. So we actually brought in a team from Trinidad to the mass camp. They came and they lived here in Barbados for literally 2 months in the mass camp. And we would go there and we would hang out and drink alcohol and vibe and thing all day, and also make costumes while having a full-time job, because I was at Greg Hoyes then, the AE for Banks Breweries. And we just learned quite a bit that year, not everything in that we would be holding the steering wheel. And then the following year, in 2000, Marcia did one more band with us, and then she decided, she had other interests, other creative interests going on. And she was like, all right, guys, you guys take the steering wheel, I'm out. We like, hold on, we know what parties. We don't know what to produce in a band. She said, no, man, y'all could do it. Y'all got this covered. You did 2 years with me, y'all got it covered. So in 2001, in our little 20s, we set out to do this band on our own.
I've been jumping for 18 years. I started with Beige International, and no, that's a lie. I started with Betty West. Then I went to Beijing International. I jumped with Zulu for a couple of years and I worked with them as well. And now I'm back to Beijing International. My first experience jumping, like I said, was with Betty West. I don't even know how she found us. She asked us to be her dancers. And I was like, okay, great, because that's something I always wanted to do from the time I was little. I always wanted to be part of somebody's Kadooment Band's presentation. So getting to finally do that at 18 years old, I was like, yes. So that was my first experience with Kadooment. Even though it wasn't like a popular young person's band, I did not care. It was a Kadooment band. I got to go across the stage at the stadium. I got to go on the road. I got to go on Spring Garden. I got to wear a costume. Like, that was the most epic thing for me at 18 years old, to be able to jump in a Kadooment band. That was my first Kadooment experience, and I'll never forget it.
My first structured band I played mass with would have been Power by Four. I did them for a few years, and then I, back and forth, played tennis between them and Beige. They were kind of like, somewhat would say, leading bands for a long period of time. And then with the growth of Cropover and several other bands breaking off from them or therefore creating themselves, I've worked and played mass with Kosa. And last but not least, Crave has been a band that I revel with and have a section with as well.
Then I went on to Cranston Brown, who brought out a band for many years, as most people in Barbados would know Cranston Brown. And in that band, I played individual costumes because I kind of wanted more bling. I guess I'm a bling person and I like large. And then after playing with Cranston for a couple of years, I went on to play with Power by Four, and always as the lead costume, which again was big and grand and bigger than the others. I always wanted different and something that I could have some input in that was not something anybody else had.
Kadooment Day is the peak of the festival. One can expect to see thousands of revelers dressed in extravagant costumes, bedazzled with gems and backpacks, dancing behind massive music trucks and never-ending supplies of drinks. Executing this one-day experience requires many hands, months of meticulous planning, and hard work.
When somebody come to me and say, I just want to purchase a costume, I try to tell people you're not purchasing a costume, purchasing an experience. And this experience is so many different variables goes into this experience that to make it come together to make a successful product.
I understood that it takes a lot of work. Like I said, I'm a dancer, so I know what putting on a production is. And that's what Kadooment is. You're putting on a production.
So we sat down, decide what's the theme. Then we talked to the designer, collaborate on what it should look like. Then before we start to work and spend money, we try to get some sponsors, see what could cover what. When you come to sign up for the band, okay, you are filling a slot. We don't wait till you sign it to decide how large the band will be. We can't, because the costumes take a while to be made, right? And we need funds coming in. So if we decide the band will be 1,500 people, so we say band is 1,500 people, 1,200 women, 300 men. Then it's 6 sections, so then you split up the sections and you know the numbers.
It happens so quickly at the back end. Okay, you design the costumes, you put the costumes out, you have sales. Now from there, the orders, even before the final payments are made, only down payments we send to get the costumes made. That is a risk. That is a risk in itself.
From the time I get to Spring Garden, my brain is already working, okay, what happened this year? What was good? What do we need to improve? Where are we going next year?
And that's how you keep up, because you want to get better every year. So your timeline's going to get shorter, so because you want to produce it faster or whatever. So we pretty much start from right after. It's an ongoing process.
It is very intense, and it is one where you only have one opportunity to get it right, and so many things can go wrong.
That process is a lot. It takes a lot of logistics to get a band on the road. And I'm pretty sure that you would have known that, you would have heard that from other people, band leaders. They really do have a mammoth task. Down to, I feel like it's an annual thing. Like, they go all year round.
It's a lot of work. So I have a lot more respect for band leaders, and I give them a blind now. Like, you know, if something slips through the cracks, I just like, I know it's hard. I know you've got a lot of things going through your mind, like, oh, this. And it's all through the season. It's not just on Kadooment Day or the day before. It's all through the season.
We're selling an experience 6 months ahead of people actually being involved in that, right? So you're pre-selling an experience.
At the beginning of each Cropover season, each party band sets the tone and vibe by hosting their band launch. Much like many other things in the Caribbean, this is usually a melting pot experience. Picture costume runway show meets rave meets concert. Models hit the stage to parade the costumes for the year. Calypso and soca artists perform new releases, and this is where the anticipation and excitement for the festival truly begins to build.
Usually April, May, maybe the time that bands will launch and then launch their costume collection and then sell costumes leading up to that first Monday in August.
For me, it starts from launch, preparing for the launch. So as a model, I have to get my body right. So nutrition is very important, fitness is very important. So sometimes I will start training from about two months out, just to make sure that I'm in tip-top shape for launch day.
A band launch has become a major undertaking. And again, that's kind of Beage's fault.
And this guy, Roger Myers, used to do all these sketches for all the bands in Trinidad, because back then, you didn't used to show a costume, you used to show a drawing, a sketch. And people used to pay for the section by just looking at a sketch. And after 3 years or so, because I had the same design, I said, look, you know, if I give 10 different designers the same sketch, I get 10 different costumes. So I said, I can stop showing the sketch and I can show the actual costume, get it made early. And we started that here in Barbados before Trinidad.
But again, when we started doing it our own in 2001, we wanted to put our own kind of stamp on it in a modern and different way, you know, new millennium kind of compliant. So we started using live models to launch the band initially. And then afterward, we decided, you know what, let's take it to another level. I think around maybe 2004 or 5 or so, we said, you know what, let's actually do a production.
We walk with a buckle and spoon and take a little wine on a woman. Can't you see that life is nice around here?
And we decided to launch at Coco Cabana on the beach for our first year. And the response was massive. As I said, you know, we at the time, Matthew and Rory had the all clear to we just wanted crazy dope. We can invest in this product, we wanted like crazy. And we had fireworks, we had flamethrowers. Like at one point, I remember telling Matthew, okay, like, because they just get completely crazy with it. I was like, okay, we still have a budget.
But behind the gems and the joy that being in a mass band brings, band directors are faced with some of the biggest challenges.
Well, from the time you start that preparation to the end, there are challenges from day one until you get the masquerade to get their food at the end of the jump.
We're going to put 2,000 people in a band on the road. Okay, we went from 1,500 to 2,000 because the demand was such that the band was selling out very quickly. And people just wanted to get in the band. Big mistake, we accommodated 500 more people, right? So when you got 2,000 people in a band, that means you have 500 staff, okay? So you have 2,500 people on the road. And let me tell you something, from the time that truck left the stadium, problems, right? Problems.
2017, we did everything right. You know, we connected well with our designers in terms of our development of what we wanted to portray and how, you know, what we wanted the band to represent for 2017. We doubled down on our philanthropy and the level of social work that we did for 2017. We created a whole new concept for the space with the Coastal Design Challenge, where we produced about 6 episodes that year. Each episode over 20,000 views. It was just, everything was just going amazing. And then the week of the crop over, it just started to tumble. No matter how you try to stop it from spinning, things just kept going wrong.
Coming up next on The Journey, the mass band story.
In terms of just challenges,
When we actually saw the finished product, we were like, what is this? This is not what we want.
Because we had to pack all of these costumes, over 1,000 costumes, overnight.
And they're like, well, you know, Jeremy, well, your packages aren't coming to Barbados. And I'm like, huh?
my biggest challenge, jeez, boy.
You don't want to talk about it at all, even though we're not pressuring you to say